All right. Well, I guess let's just get right into it if you're good with that.
Absolutely.
Cool. To start off, could you share a little bit of your like a little bit about your background in skateboarding? Who you are, what teams you ride for?
Yeah,
Right.
sure. So, my name's Emmanuel Guzman, and I was born here in Santa Cruz. I started skateboarding in '93. I was about 9 years old and got into it because I had some friends in school that were also kind of getting into it at the time.
Nice.
And then soon after I started, I'd say like within the first few years of skating, I got pretty good and decided I wanted to try to get sponsored. So I made a sponsor me video, and I brought it to a friend at Santa Cruz Skateboards. He worked there shrink wrapping the boards, and he was able to get it to the team manager at the time.
Do that.
Um, so Santa Cruz was my first legit sponsor, other than Bill's Wheels. Bill's Wheels Skate Shop was actually my first sponsor, but that was a little bit of a different scenario, shop flow versus like factory sponsor.
Yeah, yeah. So with Bill's Wheels, were you just getting decks, getting wheels and stuff like that, and then Santa
I was
Cruz?
basically getting discounted goods, and then when a Bill's Wheels product would come out, I'd get the new either shirt or board, which was once every few months.
Nice. Okay, that's
Um, yeah, so that's where it all started.
cool. Well, my research is kind of focusing on like how space shapes behavior. So I'm kind of looking at the differences between like the culture, if you will, at like Derby Skate Park versus like newer parks like Mike Fox. Uh,
Yeah.
so getting into that, how do you think like the layout of a skate park affects how people act in it?
I mean, layout actually plays a big part in how people kind of behave on a social level. I find that depending on how familiar with the types of skate parks that are out there and the communities they're being built in, you might get a really big, gnarly skate park in an area where people have just started kind of learning how to skate, and that might create an atmosphere for more of a hangout environment than actually, taking advantage of the free public park, because it can be kind of intimidating and overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, as where something like Derby, that's just pretty small in scale to a lot of the newer parks and is really organic. It doesn't really have like the same features that a modern park would. I feel like it just naturally lends itself to the eye for beginners, and then also just for knowing you can kind of cruise and just have a good time. It lends itself to just organically being a natural, like, social environment to just come and roll around and have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, do you feel like different parks have a different set of like rules, if you will, even if no one really talks about the rules? There's kind of this unspoken like you're supposed to behave a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's some etiquette that translates for all skate parks, and that's sort of the rule of being mindful of other people there, and um, taking turns and that sort of stuff, which that is good park etiquette regardless of the style of park. But of course, the more extreme and bigger and gnarlier parks where you're going faster and there's a higher risk for injury, like from collision or something, then you really have to be extra kind of conscientious and mindful. And if maybe you are used to skating with headphones in, take them out.
Yeah, yeah.
um, and so, yeah, I mean, there's general park etiquette, which everybody should follow. And a lot of it's common sense, and a lot of it you see kids not really familiar with, but it's not necessarily their place when learning. It's the parents' place who are there to just be socially aware of, like, taking turns and watching out for other people, and like stuff that is more surprisingly common in a skate park than not. It's the parents' lack of conscientiousness.
Absolutely, man. Totally.
So I try not to put it on the kids, I try to teach them, but I also like to inform the parents as well when I can that, hey, this is the way park etiquette goes, teach that to your child.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not like conscientious enough to know about not dropping in on people and taking turns and all that,
then you're going to be providing you're going to be making that area a little bit more dangerous than it should be.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. And more generally, like more often than not, an experienced skateboarder will be able to dodge, hitting somebody else or hitting a kid, but they will in turn get hurt. So it does create a more dangerous environment for everybody else.
Yeah, totally.
Um,
Well, do you find yourself skating differently, consciously or unconsciously, depending on the park that you're at?
I mean, for sure, I always prefer a park where everybody is like skating. It's sort of a distraction when you're at a skate park and everybody's kind of hanging out. It just feels like a way more judgmental, critique scene. You can't really focus on just having fun as much. So yeah, skate parks where like everybody that's there is actually skating are typically my favorite.
There's just a better energy there too, I feel like, right?
There's a better energy, there's a better dynamic, there's more of just like unspoken encouragement between everybody that's trying to skate and do their tricks than, when there's a bunch of people just watching one person try their trick.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I think I prefer that always is when it's like a super, active skate park scene versus more of just like a social hangout.
No, exactly. More of like an organic kind of skating style, if you will.
Yeah, and as like, a pro is like a known pro. I like to take advantage of my time when I can skate, not to like sit and socialize and talk and so I feel like I get distracted easier when people aren't skating because then they just want to talk.
Yeah, right. And I'm sure you get people coming up to you all the time to take pictures or like trying to sneak a little clip of you, your trick. Like, you have any?
Which is, I mean, yeah, that's fine. Like that stuff's all fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind like being cool with people like that, but it's more of just like I said, the self-conscious aspect of feeling like the people that aren't skating are watching and judging, or in my case sometimes it feels like I'm doing a demo or something, but when people are trying trick, it gives me something to be inspired by and to be motivated by too. When I see someone trying a trick, like it makes me want to try my trick and land it too, right? So
hell yeah. Well, getting into the specifics of Sargent Derby Park, what would you describe like the general vibe at Sargent Derby like?
I mean, Derby's pretty unique. It has a lot of history, so you have a lot of like generational crossover. You've got people that have been skating there for 40, 50 years, and then you have people who have never skated before or come in there because it's a good place to learn. And with that, you have this whole like communal feel where people are so familiar with that story of it being the first place that they skated, and there they are 40 years later. They want to share that experience and they want to encourage the youth and each other. And like, it's a sacred place also, just like a surf break is a sacred place for local surf communities. Derby's kind of that same, like, has that same sacred local energy where people can gather and be surrounded by their like-minded peers and by other good energy. And so yeah, I think it's like our version of our favorite little surf break, so to speak.
Totally. I love that. That's a great answer. Anything that you feel like you or just in the average skater should know before skating derby for the first time?
I mean, just like anywhere you go, doesn't matter how tore up the place is when you show up, or how people are acting when you show up. Just be respectful. There's a lot of residents around there.
Mm-hmm.
Be mindful of what's up, like when you're parking. And same with when you're there at Derby. Like, obviously it's a park, have fun, do what you're going to do, but try to be mindful of your surroundings. And, you know, big local point of contention for us is to clean up after yourself. Don't leave your shit everywhere. Because,
Yeah.
like I said, whether it's here or somewhere else, I'm a believer in just cleaning up after yourself, packing your trash.
Right.
And so, you know, I think honestly, there's very little rules and like expectations. They're pretty simple. Be respectful and clean up after yourself. You know, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, totally. Well, how would you describe the general vibe of Mike Fox then? Is it kind of the same, or are there a few like unique differences?
I mean, I've had some amazing sessions at Mike Fox, to be honest. Like, I really do enjoy going to Mike Fox, but
Yeah.
you know, when they first built it, I think it had a little bit of that same overwhelming or intimidating aspect to a lot of people. They had never seen big bowls.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the features in the street course might have been a little bit too extreme for them. You know, but ultimately it's a really good place to hone like a different set of street skills that other parks didn't offer up until that point. It has slowly become, because of sort of the more expertise like level of skating for that place, it's become kind of one of those hangouts where, you know, I'll drive by sometimes and I'll see way more people sitting there than I will skating.
Absolutely. I noticed that a lot too.
And you know, that's not like to speak on them not being at the skate park trying to do something constructive with their time, but honestly, like, that's not how you get better at skating. And I've had too many sessions where I've been the only one skating with a crowd of people just like sitting there.
Yeah, totally.
And you know, like, it is a difficult place. So I take some pretty good slams there when I'm really skating hard. And you know, more than any other time when you're eating shit, like, you want the people around you to be skating with you, not just sitting there watching. So it's hard for me to really want to get down in that situation, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well,
But it's a good park, and I was stoked that they were able to host the Tim Broch Day this year. I think that it really like allowed some kids to step out of their comfort zone, and then it allowed some kids that have really like been willing to try to hone their skills at that park to shine. And so that was cool.
yeah, hell yeah. I feel like one park is easier or like a better place for beginners to learn compared to the other.
Well, honestly, I think the best park in town for people to learn, and I always try and point them in that direction. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's Frederick Street Skate Park.
Oh yeah, I just skated that the other week. The first time.
So yeah, Frederick Street was built right around the same time as Derby, and it is a super mellow version, so sort of like Derby. You know, it doesn't have like any features really at all, except for just a couple of little bumps
Mm-hmm.
in that bottom bank. And so I think it's a really, really good place to learn, and it's always empty.
Yeah.
Which for kids who are beginning, again, you don't really have to think, they don't have to be so mindful of the etiquette that I was talking about earlier with other people being in the day. They can sort of just focus on developing their skills and not like, you know, worrying about getting ran over or getting in someone's way.
Yeah, right. Do you feel like one of either Derby or Mike Fox has more community?
I mean, well, like like I was saying, I think that Derby just naturally by default has become sort of this this sacred communal park and hangout zone and social space for tons of generations. And you know, not that Mike Fox couldn't, but it definitely right now it doesn't have the same sort of energy just on a daily basis that Derby tends to have.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. Well, I'm gonna get into like generational shifts, kind of, like style and speed of progression, stuff like that.
Okay.
Do you feel like younger skaters are progressing differently today than they did in the past? and not necessarily at a faster rate, but just differently? If so, what role does social media play in all of that?
Sorry, I just switched over to my headset.
You're all good, man.
So you're asking like, let me just try to reiterate for this. If there's a different level of progression in skating these days and what role social media has in that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that the level of progression is self-explanatory. The types of stuff people are doing in skating these days is, far more advanced than what was happening 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, right.
I think that, where that all starts first and foremost is the visibility, is being able to see that level of skating, um, and have access to see that level of skating on a regular basis.
Right. Not
And so,
up and buy a video that you're interested in. You can kind of just scroll around and see it in your face.
right, you used to have to wait for a video to come out, and depending on what team was working on what video, there might be like 3 or 4 videos that came out a year.
Mm-hmm.
There was very minimal internet content because it's very costly to make a video, and there wasn't the same sort of, financial compensation from posting it on the internet that there is now.
Totally.
And so it made sense for the companies who were spending a bunch of money to make these videos happen to be selling them at the time. Of course, with the slow and gradual boom of the internet and sort of different media outlets popping up there for people to be able to access skateboarding a little bit more regularly than those videos that were coming out. That was the start, and then with social media, of course, everything has just been amplified because now that has become not only a way to see new and progressive skating on a regular basis, but it's become a valid way for the skateboarders themselves to post content. So
Mm-hmm.
it's for the kids and for the up and coming like skaters. I think that it's a win-win, minus the fact that they're seeing it on social media. That's sort of where you have to go to see it. If there was another way to compile it that was a little bit less like deconstructive of time and energy than
Yeah,
being on social media,
totally.
I think that would still be a lot better because it's just too much. It's a overload of information now.
Right.
And if anything, it's not a real representation of how skateboarding works. All the stuff they're seeing on there takes so much time and practice and patience to be able to do. And if they think that being that good is the norm, it can be a deterrent because skateboarding's hard.
Exactly.
And
Well, that's a really good segue into my next question here. How much of skateboarding is failure?
I mean, 95% of it is
Right.
failure. It's one of the best, lessons in patience and perseverance that I've ever come across, and I think a lot of people have. And I think that's what makes it so rewarding is the challenge. It sort of it initiates that reward. It's what begins the whole aspect of skateboarding being cool and challenging.
Right. And then playing into that social media stuff, a lot of the time you're just seeing the makes, you're not seeing the hours of effort, all the slams that went into getting that one clip, right? So it could be
Right, yeah.
a deterrent for newer skaters thinking it's just that easy. I like that point a lot.
Well, and I try and explain that to the youth as best as I can when I have the opportunity. It's always comes down to being patient, and like that's one of the first lessons I try and teach them before anything is that this is a hobby or an activity that requires a ton of patience. And before you start beating yourself up, just remember that. Just remind yourself that this is a challenging thing that you have, decided to get into, and it's super rewarding though if you can be patient. And that I think is just like the most broad general advice that I can give, just because sometimes that is what it takes. Like a lot of kids are just too small to be able to do the tricks, right? You have to get bigger
Right.
and build muscle and like things that will require patience in one way or another, whether they recognize it as that or not. But yeah, I don't really try and watch that much like stuff on the internet or social media wise in general. Obviously, like I like to go and check the Thrasher site.
Mm-hmm.
That for me, I feel has the most relative kind of type of viewing that I like to watch.
Right. And it's not overwhelming. It's a manageable amount of content.
It's a
Normal.
manageable amount of content. It comes out still frequently, if not every day, but it's not like 50 different videos on there. It might be one or two.
Exactly.
And then you can stew on that, and that's good too. Like I think that unfortunately with all the visual stimulation, people have forgotten how to use their imaginations, which is super critical when you're doing anything physically like challenging. Um, your imagination and how you picture things and how you like imagine them is way more um, relative to how you'll perform it than watching somebody else do it.
Yeah. Totally. Well,
So if you sit there and picture yourself doing a kickflip, you know, all day long, it's actually going to be better for you than if you sit there and watch somebody else do it. Like,
absolutely. I mean, there's nuances to each person's body too.
yep.
Like for me, like my hips are pretty messed up. Getting the flick out for that kickflip, I feel like I rely a little bit more on like the flick of my ankle than like leg extension, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. No, I mean that's my point in case is that everybody's bodies are different. Everybody does it a little bit different, and if you sit there and try and imagine yourself doing it in somebody else's body, your cognitive like piece of your brain's never going to be able to make that association.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
if you picture the way that you do it and you picture that over and over and over, the way that you want to do it as best as you can in your body, like that's how you come to achieve that.
Great answer, man. Well, moving into like filming culture and kind of the just how easy technology is. Everyone's got a phone in their pocket now. Everyone can record clips. Um, do you feel less motivated or, oh, sorry. Do you feel less motivated to land something hard if there's not somebody filming you?
For me, yes, and I won't say that's always been the case. Like when I was younger and I didn't have the option of having both a filmer, a photographer, in the moment of
Yeah.
trying to document something, or because it was just that point in my skating where it was more important to me to physically be accomplishing like these progressive moves than having it documented. As long as I had a witness,
Mm-hmm.
that was that was plenty for me. But now I think with years of skateboarding like in a sponsored sense and having to produce content and sort of fulfill contractual obligations, it's important for me to have like good documented footage and photos when I need to. So I've learned through experience and trial and error that it's better for me to document something I'm going to do that's really hard than to just do it for myself.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
I feel like,
but that, yeah, that hasn't always been the case.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, as someone who skates professionally, has all these sponsors, do you feel like filming has kind of changed the meaning of a session for you?
Um, yeah, I mean, I, in, my age and sort of physical condition, like I try to save my hardest or best skating for documentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a moment in time where it was less critical to me because I knew that my body was a little bit more capable of redoing or being on command a little bit more. Now it takes a lot more like physical energy and mental focus and I have to, treat those moments with a little bit more care. So yeah, I would say that when I'm trying something that's the hardest, yeah, I need to be filming it or trying to shoot a photo of it.
Yeah.
But when I skate, in my daily routines, like just practicing and kind of conditioning, I still try and skate pretty hard and practice how I would play. So sort of if I know I have a trip or something coming up, I'll always start taking my like sessions a little bit more serious.
Yeah. Totally. This is a little segue here. This doesn't really relate to my paper, but I recently saw some photos from what looks like De La Costa, or De La Vega. Sorry.
Yes.
You ollieing over that golf cart, dude.
Yeah.
That was sick. So there has to be a
Rad.
kicker
Thank
back
you.
there, right?
There is a ramp. We photoshopped the ramp out,
Oh, gotcha, dude. That's an amazing.
but
Man.
thanks, man. Yeah, that was cool. That was again like just a really neat opportunity that Skating for Santa Cruz has provided. They did a collab with Malbin Golf Company.
Nice. Yeah.
And yeah, we didn't really know what they had in mind for this collaborative shoot, but they basically came at us with what to them seemed like a pretty basic idea. And that was ollie over a golf cart, So we as in some of the guys here at NHS, some friends of mine, they went and built the ramp, which was like a mega ramp. It was huge.
Damn.
And then yeah, we found a location on the golf course with a hill that would provide good speed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we had, we had like maybe a half hour in the middle of the open course day to go and shoot. So on the 18th hole, people that were teeing off were not that stoked to see our whole production right there in the middle of the
Yeah, right.
you know,
That's
the
awesome.
whole way.
Well, this is one of the main ideas of my paper here. Do you feel like skateboarding is becoming more optimized and a little bit less ritualized, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way to put it. I think that in a lot of ways, it's become optimized because that's better for skateboarding as a whole. The more people that are into it, the more people that will understand it, the more accepted it will become, um, and the more longevity there will be for it, right?
Yeah.
But as far as the ritualistic side, I mean, that has been dying since the beginning of it. It was such a small, organically kind of born thing that the people who first started doing it never in a million years would have foreseen what it's become. And within that, whatever it was that they were doing, those rituals died with them, or
Right.
they have left with them. Sort of like how I've had a really hard time adapting to social media, not just like as the viewer, but as the participant. I'm not very good at it because generationally, I was used to having things that were a lot more um, tangible. It was about
Yeah.
magazines and VHSs and DVDs, and they had a different level of value in my mind because that's what I grew up on. So seeing that same value in a online format just isn't the same for me. And I'm sure for a lot of people who came before me, seeing it, on DVD was a, a big like differentiator.
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
Um, so yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing though, is that with every ritual side of it that dies, a new one's born.
Mm-hmm.
The more groups of kids that are out there doing it, the more rituals they'll create, and like it's the type of thing that lends itself to getting into it that deep because again it requires a lot of dedication. So when you pour yourself into something like that, whether it's music or art or skating or
Mm-hmm.
um, you become attached to it because it's a part of you. It's like it's you've put your own blood, sweat, and tears and energy into it, and
And
you
hours,
know
hours into it. Yeah.
yeah, it takes a different value. And with that, like in a group setting, when all you have found that value in it together and like been through that struggle together, um, yeah, it creates some pretty cool dynamics.
Nice. Great answer, man. Um, Changing it up a little bit here. How do you feel about people who don't skateboard wearing skater brands like Thrasher, Spitfire, NHS stuff? Do you think that's like, do you get excited by that, or is it kind of like unearned like value?
I mean, I honestly don't care. Like, I think that there's appeal to it for a reason. Like, a lot of the brands, whether you skate or not, are cool. Skateboarding is cool, whether you skate or not.
Yeah,
At least it is to me. So when I see somebody out there wearing a skate brand that doesn't skate, it does not matter to me. Obviously, if the person sucks, they suck, and you wish that they weren't representing the skate community by wearing that stuff. But like,
totally.
ultimately, no, I don't care who wears what. That's what makes our industry possible, is that there's a lot of non-skaters wearing skate stuff and making it, possible for people like me.
Absolutely. Well, getting into a couple of closing questions here. Do you think, in general, is skateboarding culture evolving or is it kind of fragmenting into these different subcultures?
I mean, I think it's still evolving personally, and I think a big part of that is actually because of the popularity with like the young girl skateboarders.
Yeah,
I think that there are aspects of it that are being lost and sort of the quality control side, but I think that with the popularity of it, like amongst young girl skaters, there's some really savvy, really proactive young girls out there, and like you put them in the ring of skateboarding and they'll do great things.
yeah,
And so I think that that is still evolving, but I think that it's still it's one of those things that's so young still that there isn't really like a blueprint for success, and that scares a lot of people away. If they don't have that ambitious personality to begin,
mm-hmm,
it's probably not going to suit them. But like I say, I think it's still evolving because I think there's a lot of like young ambitious skaters. A lot of them happen to be girls, and I think that they're probably going to push it forward
yeah,
in different ways.
totally. I mean, just being a part of the community, I've felt that push a lot too, especially like on my college campus. You know, the skate club, it's like 50% girls now, and I'm loving that. Growing up, I saw a lot less of that. I feel like
Right.
cool just seeing it being shared. Like the love for skateboarding is being shared across more members of the community.
It is, and the more girls that do it, the more that like that inclusivity is spoken for.
Exactly.
It's always been supposed to have been inclusive, but it wasn't, to be real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Right.
up until recent, like I feel like there hasn't been enough representation to show that it is inclusive for young people out there to find their like-minded person in skateboarding. But um, yeah, I think that side of it is changing. Like you're saying, you have a bunch of people in your college skate club that are girls. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, the fact that they're even there in school doing what they're doing speaks volumes to their proactiveness. So,
Yeah. Right.
um,
Nice.
yeah, those are good advocates to have in skateboarding for sure.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's almost this man like an exponential effect. You know, you see as a girl, you see a couple of girls ripping. Maybe you're gonna
Uh-huh.
more people are gonna see you. Now there's even more of them getting into it, and it just kind of grows.
Yeah, and that's the other side is that the level of progression and just tricks and stuff that is happening is really, inspiring. And I can only imagine like between where it was not that long ago with the pioneers like Alyssa Steamer and stuff to where it is now. I mean, that happened fast.
It did, right?
That happened really fast.
Awesome. Well, is there anything that you hope skateboarding doesn't lose as it can
Oh man,
evolve.
the art form that it is. It's, to me, first and foremost, like it's a it's a form of self-expression and a way to go out there and rip around and let it out, on this really neat, like, wooden toy.
Yeah. Right?
And learn a lot in the process, and not just about yourself, but about the community and the culture around you.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just hope it never loses that. I hope that conversation never dies, where everyone's too focused about who's sponsored by who, or who's wearing what, or um, how much this costs versus this. Like,
Hmm.
it it's supposed to be, I think, one of those sort of just youthful experiences, like, no matter how old you get, right? You're
Yeah.
supposed to just enjoy it, and enjoy all the experience that it brings, like, and yeah, don't focus on all the other stuff. It's amazing that there's an industry now that can support people like myself, but for me, it started by having fun with my friends and trying to work on my skills, and
Hmm.
then the rest of it came later. But
Absolutely.
I've never lost sight of that, because that's still what I cherish. So
Right. Yeah, I feel like that creative aspect to it is something that can never really, no matter how many clips you see of people doing like quote unquote really hard tricks on Instagram, on TikTok, whatever. I mean, my favorite stuff that I see is like, man, like the just the super creative stuff, almost like the Andy Anderson, like Rodney Mullen type of thought that goes into, wow, I've never thought about doing that with my skateboard. I didn't know it could do that, you know?
100%. Even, for me too, like, a lot of it, when I say art, like, literally the art. There's a lot of art in skateboarding. The decks all have graphics, and the wheels have little graphics,
Hmm.
and deck art is a huge way to really express yourself. And as a pro, you're given this creative, like, freedom and opportunity to put your life on a graphic, and it's a rad way to have an accomplishment meet your creative desires, right? Like, you might not be the greatest artist, but here's your chance.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, awesome, man. Well, any other like closing thoughts or comments that you'd like to include here?
No, I just think it's awesome you're doing this. Thank you for thinking of me, and yeah, I wish you the best post graduation with
Right.
whatever you do.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you. I mean, thanks for being so easy to work with. I skated with I was at Derby and saw you guys pull up for a little bit of time, and I was just like taken aback by your level of skating and how cool you and everyone in your group was with like all the other people at the park too.
Right on, man. Well, I'm glad that that was your observation and experience. That
Yeah,
means
yeah.
that we're doing it right.
Hell yeah. All right, well I'll let you get back to it, man. Thanks again.
Right on, Colin. You too. Have a good one,
Yeah,
man.
you too, man. See you.
Okay.